Sure.
Oh, I have to splash the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I kicked you out.
Terrible. Why did they do that?
Why?
Hurts my feelings.
Okay. Watch. Well, I'm going to ruin the surprise. Everyone close your eyes. Come on. Do it. Close your eyes. You're not going to close them. Okay, you guys, look. Here's what we just did. In the 19th century, this idea of supply and demand we've been talking about, this idea of market equilibrium in the 19th century was something that was devised by a number of economists, Vol Ross and a bunch of other guys. They were all big into this idea of supply, demand, they cross, and the price goes to that point where supply and demand cross because the price is able to move, and it's going to move to the spot where quantity supplied is equal to quantity demanded. People are making the same theoretical arguments I've been making to you the last couple of weeks, but nobody had ever tested to see whether or not this actually worked. This is actually how things work in the real world. No one had tested it. Why? What pieces of information would I need in order to test this idea that the price moves to the equilibrium? What do I need?
You need all of our values and costs.
I would need, well, first, the easy thing, what I do need, I'd need the price in the market, right? I would also need the quantity bought and sold, right? I would need those pieces of information. Quantity bought and sold and the price, but then I need to compare what I see in the market to the actual supply and demand curves for our product. So if we're talking about this red bottle here, right? In order to find out, what did it cost?
$5.
$5, okay? So I know it costs $5. I could probably find out from the manufacturer how many units were sold this year. And that is to say bought and sold this year. I could get that information. But in order to find out whether the market was really efficient for that bottle, I would have to find out everybody in the world's value for that bottle and everybody in the world's cost to that bottle, build those curves and find out if the point where they crossed was actually the point where the price emerged. Do you see that?
Yeah.
And you see that nobody had ever done this. Nobody had ever thought to do this because it's impossible. Even if you could find the value everybody had for something, that value could change. Or when people actually got to the point where they had to make a decision, they realized, you know what, maybe I was overestimating what my value was for that, okay? Now that the price is a little different, it's strange. Or things change over time or whatever it is. The information wasn't there to test because we don't know the supply and we don't know the demand for a particular product. Vernon Smith, 2002 Nobel Prize winner, my mentor in graduate school. This guy was very curious about this problem. He was actually a socialist at the time. He thought that all this talk about efficient markets was all just wishful thinking. And he wanted to actually demonstrate that the world was a lot messier than the way the theory actually works. So what he thought, he turned this whole idea on its head. Instead of trying to take a good that we already know about and find out what the costs and values of people have for that actually are, to find out what those supply and demand curves are, he did something different. He did the experiment that you guys were in today. They weren't on smartphones. He did it by hand. But he did exactly the same experiment. He had an auction in the class. And during that auction, he basically was doing exactly the same thing. He did an auction for a fictitious good. Why the fictitious good?
Because you don't know your work.
Who said it? You got it, right? How many of you walked in here today with inborn preferences for fictitious goods? Like, oh man, that is my favorite kind of good. I hate realistic goods. Fictitious, that's where it's at. That's what I want. I hope I walk out of here with 3, 4, 5 fictitious goods today. No, none of you had any value for the good that was being sold and bought in this market, did you? Nothing except what I told you your values were, right? So in other words, the value for these goods in this market was exactly what I told you the value was. And so I know the demand curve. Why? Because I made it. He flipped the whole thing upside down. That's what's so ingenious about what he did. He flipped the whole thing upside down. He said, I'm going to make up a good, and then I'm going to induce people's values. I'm going to induce people's costs.
It's kind of like social networking now, right?
Yeah, a little bit like that. Yeah, I mean the types of experiments that we're doing.
Yeah, because I was thinking when you said that it was impossible before to find out what everyone's value was for it, isn't that kind of the small concept behind the like button on Facebook? So
I don't want to push that metaphor too far. I mean, possibly. I mean,
that's why they give it so much value now, but
Sure.
it hasn't proven any real
see. So all we don't know what that like actually means when people press it. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yep, absolutely. Because there's nothing behind it. It's just easy. It's just the calories you burn pressing a button. Yeah. So here's what's ingenious. Like I took everybody. How many buyers? Raise your hand. Each one of you buyers had 4 values, or goods for 4 units, right? Each one of you had values for 4 units. Okay? Well, I took all those values in this room and scattered them out. They were randomly distributed, so none of you had the same values or costs, right? So I scattered all these values out there, but if I took all those values and I actually rank ordered them, if I rank ordered those values, that's what they look like. The highest value for an item in here was 600. The lowest value in here for an item was like 1. Okay? And then bunch of little stair steps. In fact, how many stair steps? 100 stair steps. Got it? 100 little stair steps with each of those units that you guys had value for being one of those stair steps. Everybody got that? Okay, sellers, same situation. Tons of sellers. Raise your hand if you're a seller. All you sellers, you've got your costs, right? If you took all those costs and you aggregated them and started with the lowest one on the left and went up to the highest one, that would give us our supply curve there. Okay? I wish these weren't here. They're ruining the joke. Okay, fine, great, wonderful. All right, now, so in other words, before we started, I could have pretty much predicted what the price would be in this market based on my knowledge of the supply and the demand curve, right? And if I'm right, then that says something about the type of theory that we've been talking about. That is, it is operational, that it is taking place out in the market. Despite the fact that every single one of you, were any of you interested in proving me right? Were any of you interested in maximizing the well-being of everyone in this room? Or were each of you only interested in maximizing your own profit? And by doing so, the market aggregates all of your values and costs into a single price. And my prediction for that price is about $301. So, what actually happened in this market? Did somebody say an incredulous shit? Did I hear that correctly? What? I thought I heard that. I come back in here. There's our crossing point here. Let's see. That is 45 units that were bought and sold. How many predicted? 50. So we missed it. Somebody in here left some money on the table. And that just might be they're bored, or they hate me, or they just didn't understand what was going on. That's pretty customary. What about my price? What was my last price? $300. Now we're all over the place. There's lots of different prices, but all these prices are pretty much centered around that 300, right? Y'all, this is what I bring you. What's that?
Is it 600?
No, the 600. No, that's not nearly that high. I don't know. That was a 400, I think. I think that was 400. Yeah, that one got up to 400. Oh yeah, here we go. Oh, I have names. There's contracts. So let's see who did that. Nice work. I don't know who's the seller and who's the buyer, but somebody got hosed and somebody did some hosing. How about down here? Yeah, somebody got hosed. Whoever was the buyer did real well. Whoever was the seller there got hosed. Okay? Actually, I can probably find out, but no. That's pretty incredible. I mean, honestly, it's pretty close to the most incredible thing I'm going to show you in here. I thought it was amazing the first couple of times. Now, here's the thing. You know, the reason why I built this software is because I want to see these experiments run in more classrooms. The difficulty is that it's never really been able to be run in a classroom like this. Typically, I run this hand run where you guys have these little cards and you bid and everyone's yelling and screaming, but it'd be a total nightmare in here. So I have to do it this way. The idea is to try to get through this as fast as possible. The reason why we use these experiments like this is because this that you just saw, despite feeling like it was all very chaotic and you not knowing what was going on, despite all that, you got to this point. This thing is incredibly robust. Girl Scouts, securities traders, Army men, whatever. We run it and we get to the efficient outcome. This apparatus I'm talking to you about prices moving to the point where we get to the equilibrium. This apparatus is incredibly robust and it is operational. And now you've seen proof of this. But again, so what? So what? So what that we got to this efficient point? What does that actually mean?